My son's wheelchair was missing from the ramp. I found it in my neighbor's trash, covered in paint. He said, maybe now he'll learn to be quieter. The police did nothing. But the footage I sent to his employer. This happened last fall in Dayton, Ohio. I still think about it every time I roll the ramp down for my son. His name is Carter. He's 9, and he's been in a wheelchair since he was 2 because of a spinal cord condition. He doesn't complain. He just sings, hums, talks to everyone he meets. That morning started like any other. I got him ready, wheeled him to the front porch, and went to unlock the ramp. It was gone. At first I thought maybe someone moved it. Maybe one of the other tenants borrowed it. But it wasn't just moved, it was missing. I checked around the back, the parking lot, the maintenance shed. Nothing. I carried Carter to the car and drove him to school. When I came back, I went door to door. Our building has 8 units. Most people were helpful, concerned. But one neighbor wasn't home. Unit 3B. Mr. Langston. He's probably in his mid-40s. Keeps to himself. Always looks annoyed when Carter sings in the hallway. Once told me he has sensitive hearing. But nothing about him ever screamed thief. That afternoon, I noticed his trash bin had something sticking out of it. A wheel.
I walked over.
Pulled the lid open. It was Carter's chair. Or what was left of it. The seat was soaked in gray paint. The wheels were tangled in dried latex. The foam handles were sliced. It looked like someone dumped paint over it just to ruin it. My chest went tight. I just stood there, holding onto the edge of the bin, staring. I didn't know what to do. I wheeled it out, half covered in trash. Dragged it to our porch. I called the police right away. They came.
Took my statement.
Looked at the chair. Then they walked next door and knocked on his door. Langston answered. I stood behind the officer, and I'll never forget what he said. The cop asked him if he knew anything about a wheelchair. He looked right at me and said, maybe now he'll learn to be quieter. That's when I realized he did it on purpose. He meant it. He wanted to hurt Carter, in his own quiet way. The officer asked a few more questions, but Langston wouldn't say anything else. After 10 minutes, they came back and told me there wasn't much they could do. It's a civil matter, they said. No video.
No witness.
No proof he painted it. I asked, so he can destroy my disabled son's chair, and that's just fine? They just shrugged. That night, I sat in the kitchen with the chair in front of me. Carter was asleep. I tried cleaning it. The paint had soaked into the seat. The handles were beyond repair. I kept hearing Langston's voice. That smug, bored tone. Maybe now he'll learn to be quieter. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Next morning, I went online and bought a small outdoor camera. It wasn't fancy. Took a few hours to set it up. Aimed it right at our ramp. 2 days later, I caught him in the act. I watched him open the gate, walk right up, lift the new chair, and wheel it toward the street. He looked around, then looked straight at the camera.
He saw it.
He knew, and he still dumped it in the trash. He never even flinched. I downloaded the footage. You could see his face, his clothes, his hands on the wheelchair. I labeled it. I backed it up 3 times. I sent it to the police again. They said, we'll keep it on file. That's it. So I did something else. I found his LinkedIn. He works at Grand & Faber, some accounting firm downtown. Wears a tie every day, but paints over a kid's wheelchair at night. I wrote an email to the HR department. Subject: disability harassment, employee misconduct. I attached the footage. Wrote exactly what he said. Maybe now he'll learn to be quieter. I didn't think they'd respond, but they did. Within hours. We take this very seriously. An internal review is underway. That's all they said. I never heard from them again. But 3 days later, his car was gone. The blinds in his windows stayed closed. For weeks, he didn't come outside. And when he finally did, it wasn't in a suit. It was in sweatpants. No coffee cup.
No vrífcas.
Carter saw him and said, "He looks smaller." I didn't answer. I was watching him, too. He looked down. Didn't say anything. I didn't feel proud. I didn't feel finished. I just felt tired. Weeks passed. I expected things to settle. I thought maybe after the footage, after the HR email, after his quiet disappearance, things would stay quiet. They didn't. One Saturday morning, Carter and I went out to the porch like usual. We were building a little birdhouse, one of those kits from Home Depot. Carter was using a tiny hammer, laughing every time he missed the nail. That's when I saw it. A paper nailed to our porch post.
No envelope. No tape.
Just a single piece of paper, tacked right at Carter's eye level. I pulled it down. It said, "Watch your back. Your kid isn't the only one who can get hurt." No name.
No signature.
Just those words, typed. Plain font. I looked around. No one on the street. No cars I recognized. But something about the way it was posted, carefully, quietly. It felt deliberate. I called the police again. Showed them the note. They wrote it up as non-specific threat, said it didn't qualify as harassment unless it continued. They wouldn't even check for fingerprints. I asked them to at least talk to Langston. "We don't have enough to approach him," they said. So I bought another camera. Put it inside the porch light. Bought one more for the hallway. That night, I sat on the couch holding Carter close while he watched cartoons. My eyes were on the porch cam. Nothing moved, but I felt like I was being watched. And then, 2 nights later, I caught someone moving near the porch at 2:17 a.m. The camera picked up the figure stepping out from behind a bush, walking straight to our front door, then stopping. He didn't knock. He just stood there, watching. Then he took something out of his pocket and dropped it at the base of the ramp. I didn't go outside until daylight. I didn't want to risk it. When I finally stepped out, there was a dead bird.
Its neck twisted.
Left right under Carter's ramp. Feathers stuck in red paint. I felt sick. I couldn't breathe. I almost threw up.
I reported it again.
Same officer as last time. He looked uncomfortable this time, like maybe he believed me now, but still said there wasn't much they could do. Unless he physically harms you or your son, it's still just circumstantial. I asked, "So someone can leave threats and dead animals on our property, and we just wait until it gets worse?" He said nothing, just gave me his card. That's when I made a new plan. I wasn't going to wait anymore. I contacted someone I knew from Carter's school, Melissa, a parent who works for a disability advocacy group. I told her everything. I showed her the footage, the photos, the emails. She said, "We're going to take this public." She connected me with a reporter from the local station. I agreed to speak anonymously. They aired the story that week. Blurred our faces. Altered our voices. They didn't name Langston, but the footage was there. The paint. The trash bin. The quote. Within 48 hours, the clip had been shared thousands of times. Advocacy groups picked it up. People were angry. Really angry. Suddenly, the police came back. A different officer. This one was with a detective. They asked more questions. Asked for full camera access. Took the note, the photos, even the dead bird. I asked, "Why now?" The detective said, "Pressure from upstairs. Public pressure." Funny how fast the rules change when people start watching. But Langston didn't stay quiet. 2 days after the story aired, I came outside and found spray paint on our porch railing. One word, liar. Bright red. Right where Carter usually grips to roll himself down. I didn't cry this time. I just stared. My hands were shaking. Then I turned and saw Langston, standing by his window. He was staring right at me. I raised my phone. I didn't even try to hide it. I snapped a photo of him through the glass. His face didn't move.
No shame.
No fear. I didn't know what he was planning next. But I knew he wasn't finished. After the liar spray paint incident, I sent the photo of Langston watching us to the detective. They came by that night and took another report. But he still wasn't arrested. They said they had to prove he was the one who actually did the spray paint. Being seen in the window isn't enough, they said. Carter asked why someone would write that word on her house. I told him it was a mistake, that someone didn't understand the truth. He just nodded. But I could see something shift in him. He didn't want to roll outside the next morning. Said he wanted to stay in and do indoor stuff. Langston took that from him. He stole more than a chair. The next week, Melissa called. The reporter wanted to do a follow-up. They wanted to go deeper. Use his name this time. She said they had legal clearance now, thanks to the police report, the videos, and the harassment history. I said yes. But before it aired, something else happened. One morning I went to start my car and heard a weird clunking noise. I got out and looked underneath. My stomach turned. There were nails.
Dozens of them.
Lined up under the tires, just barely visible.
Perfectly placed.
Whoever did it wanted me to back over them. I checked the cameras, nothing. That night, I went through every frame from the last 24 hours. Finally, around 4:42 a.m., I saw it. A shadow. Someone crouching near the car. They were wearing gloves, a hood pulled low. But the walk, that slow limp, was familiar. Langston had a limp. Old injury, maybe. I sent it all to the detective. Still no arrest. But now they were watching closer. That Friday, the second news segment aired. They used his name. Showed the footage again. Described the threats. The nails. The note. The paint. Carter's story. My face was still blurred, but my voice wasn't altered this time. I wanted people to hear me. To hear what it sounded like when a parent had enough. The backlash hit fast. Neighbors started avoiding him. Someone wrote "pig" on his mailbox in chalk. He tried to wipe it off, but it came back the next day. Then someone took a photo of him, through his window, posted it online. His face went viral. For a moment, I thought maybe the nightmare was finally tipping in our favor. Until Sunday night. I was in the kitchen washing dishes. Carter was asleep. I heard a noise, sharp, metallic,
from the backyard.
I froze. I turned off the water and listened. Nothing. Then another sound, like wood cracking. I grabbed my phone and quietly stepped onto the back porch. The motion light came on. I saw a shadow behind the shed. Someone ducked. I didn't shout. I didn't panic. I called 911 right there on speakerphone. Someone's in my backyard. Possibly the same man who's been threatening my son. The operator stayed on the line. Within 4 minutes, 2 cruisers rolled up. They shined lights behind the shed. And he was there. Langston. Hunched. Sweating. Holding a crowbar. He didn't say a word when they cuffed him. Just looked at me once. That same dead-eyed look. The officers told me later he hadn't broken anything yet. But the crowbar? That alone was enough. They could finally charge him.
Trespassing.
Intent to damage property. Maybe even more. I asked, what happens now? The detective said, we'll see what sticks. But I couldn't relax. Not even with him gone for the night. I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that crowbar. What if I hadn't been awake? What if Carter had gone outside to see what the noise was? What if I hadn't installed those cameras? Langston was released 2 days later. No jail time. Just a citation, a court date, and a warning to stay off my property. The detective called to let me know. He sounded embarrassed. I asked, that's it? Unfortunately, he said. First-time offender. No physical harm. It's what the law allows. I didn't say anything. Just hung up. Carter was building Lego towers on the rug. He looked up and asked, are the bad people gone yet? I didn't have an answer. The next week was quiet. No notes.
No threats.
No sounds at the window. But I didn't trust it. I watched the cameras every night. I barely slept. My hands shook whenever the wind knocked something over. On Friday, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a printout of the news story, the one with Langston's face. Someone had circled his name in red. Underneath it, in black ink, was written, "You made your bed." I stared at the handwriting. Something about it was different. Slanted, tight, like someone trying to disguise it. Then I realized. This wasn't from him. It was someone else. Someone who knew him. Someone who didn't like what I'd done. I thought it was over when he got caught. I thought people would see the truth. But now it was turning. Quietly, people were starting to blame me. The next Monday, I went to pick Carter up from school. One of the parents, a man I'd never really talked to, gave me a long look as I walked up. "You're the one from TV, right?" he asked. I nodded. "Yeah, that's us." He crossed his arms. "You know, some folks don't like seeing their neighbor's dirty laundry all over the news." I blinked. My kid's wheelchair was destroyed. We were threatened. He shrugged.
Yeah, well.
Some things are better handled privately. I didn't respond. I just walked past him. But inside, I was boiling. That night, Carter got sick. Fever, chills, coughing. The doctor said it was just a virus, but I couldn't stop thinking, what if someone put something on the porch? On the handles of the chair? On the ramp? I cleaned everything again. Wiped every surface with bleach. Washed our clothes twice. It didn't matter. I felt dirty. Unsafe. 2 days later, Melissa called me. "I just wanted you to hear from me," she said. "Langston filed a complaint." My heart sank. "What kind of complaint?" "He says you're harassing him. Claims you're stalking him with cameras. That your story defamed him. He's threatening to sue the station and maybe you." I sat down. The room felt like it tilted. "He vandalized my son's chair," I said. "He threatened us. I have proof." "I know. But he's flipping the narrative. And some people are listening." I didn't leave the house for 3 days after Melissa's call. I kept the lights low. Checked the cameras every hour. Carter was starting to ask why we didn't go to the park anymore. Why we weren't walking down to the corner bakery like we used to. I didn't know how to explain it to him. That being right doesn't mean being safe. That even when people say, "We believe you," they don't always act like it. Then, midweek, I got a call from Carter's school. The principal's voice was stiff. "We've received a complaint from another parent. Something about your home environment and recent news coverage." I felt my stomach turn. What does that mean? We're obligated to contact child services. It's not an accusation, just a procedure. I hung up before I screamed. CPS showed up 2 days later. They were polite, professional. The caseworker's name was Anna. She asked to see where Carter slept, where he did schoolwork. She asked him if he felt safe. Carter said yes. But the whole time, I was watching him watch me. He could tell something was wrong. His eyes kept darting to mine, like he was trying to figure out what not to say. Anna was kind, but she didn't promise anything. "We'll close this quickly if everything checks out," she said. Still, after she left, I sat on the floor and cried into my hands. It wasn't just Langston anymore. It was everyone he'd dragged in. The neighbors, the school, the parents, the strangers who only saw headlines and didn't care what was underneath. That night, I got another letter in the mailbox. This time, it was handwritten on notebook paper. It said, "You should have just kept quiet. Now look what you've done to your kid." I still check the cameras every night. I still walk Carter to the ramp like someone might be watching. I've learned that sometimes the truth makes people uncomfortable enough to turn on you. But I also know this. I didn't ruin anything. I protected my son. I told the truth. And if the world wants to punish me for that, then maybe it was never safe to begin with. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had just let it go, but then I hear Carter humming on the ramp, and I remember exactly why I didn't.